What's going on, everybody? As I'm recording this video, the Bengals and Rams just won their respective conference title games and will be going to the Super Bowl. This means we're officially out of the fantasy football season. But really, if you care about fantasy football, the offseason is just starting for you. Today, I wanted to look ahead and discuss some undervalued players for 2022. Of course, we don't know their values yet for 2022, so I'm taking a complete guess. Let's just hope I'm right. Alright, let's jump right into it. Before we dive in, 99% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed to the channel. If you like what you see today, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. There'll be way more content coming this offseason and into the summer. Alright, let's dive into my first player. My first underrated player for 2022 is Kyle Pitts. I just think the public perception of Kyle Pitts as a fantasy asset is really low heading into 2022. Kyle Pitts finished the season with 68 receptions on 110 targets, just over 1,000 yards, and only one touchdown. He finished as the tight end 7 in half PPR leagues. And you might be saying, wow, tight end 7's pretty good in half PPR leagues, that's pretty good. But when you look at his game logs, Pitts only had 3 games with double-digit fantasy points. For reference, TJ Hawkinson finished with double-digit fantasy points in 7 games, while only playing in 12 total games this season. Gronk had 7 games over 10 fantasy points in 12 games, and even Dawson Knox had 6 games in double digits, while only finishing the year with 49 receptions and under 600 yards. I think there's going to be 3 major factors into Kyle Pitts being undervalued for 2022. For starters, number 1, I believe the market is just going to be fed up with the tight end overall. Last year, we had a resurgence of the tight end position pre-draft. We had Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Pitts all go within the top 4 rounds, while Kelsey and Kittle were great when healthy, and even Mark Andrews if you throw him in that list. Waller was hurt, but even when he was healthy, he was pretty bad, and of course Pitts was lackluster. And I also believe come the summer, Pitts will be in the no man's land of tight end. I don't think drafters will want him in the elite tier of tight end with Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, Waller, and Hawkinson. He burned drafters this year. But I also think he'll be at the top of the flyer list with Gronk, Hunter Henry, Dawson Knox, Dallas Goedert, Dalton Schultz, Zach Ertz. He'll be somewhere in that group of tight end. And I think he'll be at the top of that group where no one wants to draft him because he'll be too early. And I don't think he'll fall late enough for you to want to get him either. He's going to be in that weird mix. Reason number 2 why I think he'll be undervalued, his situation. It's unsure what the Falcons do at the quarterback position. But I think no matter what happens, unless it's Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, people will hate Pitts' situation. These are the situations for Atlanta. Matt Ryan is back for one more run a year older after not a very good season. 2, they draft a rookie in a not so good quarterback class. I like Kenny Pickett, and if you want to check out that video I did on him, it'll be above. Number 3, they sign a Gardner Minshew, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Daniel Jones, Mitch Trubisky type to come in and be a filler for a year. That's not great. So really, there's no positives for Pitts. I would say probably Matt Ryan coming back would be the best option for him. And my final reason why I think Kyle Pitts will be undervalued for 2022 is there was no Calvin Ridley this year. The stat projectors will look and say, dude, there was no Calvin Ridley this season, so Pitts really benefited from the lack of competing targets. And Calvin Ridley will probably be back unless he just retires from the NFL due to mental issues, but I think that will be a huge talking point, and I think that will drive Pitts' value down. And in 2021, Calvin Ridley played in 5 games. He played in weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7, where in those games he had 8 targets, 10, 11, 13, and 10, which is really great for Calvin Ridley. If you look at Kyle Pitts' target share in those games, it's still pretty high. 8 targets, 6 targets, 3 targets, 9 targets, and 8 targets. I'll live with that for my starting tight end. So I don't think Calvin Ridley really pulled a lot away from Kyle Pitts. And also the last point I'll make with this is, Dawson Knox had 9 TDs on 71 targets. Hunter Henry had 9 TDs on 75 targets. Pitts finished with just 1 touchdown on 110 targets, while going for over 1,000 yards as a rookie. The touchdowns will come, and the yardage will probably still be there. Maybe Kyle Pitts is the next star in the making. We don't really know, but the potential after year 1, I think, is super high. So that's why I think Kyle Pitts will be undervalued for 2022, and maybe a great steal. My second underrated player for 2022 will be Juju Smith-Schuster. I promise this one will be a lot quicker than Kyle Pitts, the rest of these will. That one I just really wanted to explain. But Juju Smith-Schuster comes with one huge caveat. Juju has to leave Pittsburgh. And I do believe he will leave Pittsburgh in the offseason. I think Juju is a solid receiver who can be a great complementary piece to a strong team. the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, the Packers with Aaron Rodgers next to Devontae Adams, Saints maybe if no Michael Thomas, the Buccaneers if Chris Godwin decides to leave in free agency. I don't blame the past 2 seasons on Juju at all. Of course, this past season he was injured, but in 2020 he finished with 97 catches and 9 TDs, the wide receiver 18.5 PPR leagues, with a beat up Ben Roethlisberger, an emerging Deontay Johnson, and a TD heavy Chase Claypool. I think people will just forget about Juju altogether. I think he'll be a forgotten player. And this is my reminder to you. Do not forget Juju, because I promise you he will sign with the team and either be their number 1 or he'll be a great complementary piece on a championship level team. Don't forget about Juju Smith-Schuster. The next player on my underrated players for 2022 list is J.K. Dobbins. Now this one is a little personal to me. I love Dobbins for this past season, but sadly he tore his ACL in the preseason. If you want to see why I loved him so much, check out the video I did on Dobbins, it'll be above on the notification. So for starters, people didn't believe in Dobbins for 2021 before the torn ACL. People say he couldn't catch passes for PPR leagues, and he was really going as a mid to late second round pick in most drafts this season. Now that he's coming off a torn ACL, the Ravens had a bad year. I think the Ravens run attack is going to have lost its luster from past seasons. That's just completely dominant, that you can plug anyone in and it's super great. That effect, I think it's gone. But really, Devonta Freeman and Latavius Murray combined for 8 double-digit fantasy performances, and I can bet J.K. Dobbins coming off the injury is still a way better player than washed up Freeman and washed up Murray. And don't forget what this Ravens offense is, aka one of the most, if not the most run-happy offenses in the league. If Dobbins can return healthy in 2022, I think he's a great player, a really high talented player, and if he comes back to what he was before the injury, on a great team, for cheap, I think J.K. Dobbins is a steal coming into 2022. Next on my list is Allen Robinson. Now this one is super simple. The past 2 seasons, Allen Robinson has averaged 100 receptions, just under 1,200 yards, and 6.5 touchdowns. I can't see how a guy who is such a dynamic, big play receiver, who was playing with Mitch Trubisky, Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, is all of a sudden terrible. 1 year just falls off a cliff completely, with Justin Fields under center. Listen, I'm assuming it's more of a quarterback offensive scheme issue rather than a skills fall off a cliff situation. I just can't believe it. I'm hoping Allen Robinson will get a fresh start and leave in free agency and finally go to a team that has a proven quarterback. Let's pray Robinson avoids the Lions, Dolphins, and heads to greener pastures. If Mike Williams doesn't re-sign with the Chargers in free agency, I think that's the dream scenario. Robinson, who's actually only 1 year older than Mike Williams, I'm as shocked as you are, I think that'd be the perfect fit. Maybe a New England pairing with Mac Jones could be in the cards. I know Mac Jones isn't a crazy dynamic thrower, but a rookie who threw for 3,800 yards and 22 TDs, that's pretty good, and could really improve and use a proven receiver, because let's face it, New England right now, I don't think they have a number 1 receiver on their roster, despite what the salary cap and what the contract statements say. Next on my list, simply put, Denver pass catchers. Now this one is vague, but when I say Denver pass catchers, I'm mainly talking about Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. I think these guys are 2 great weapons that should appeal to some free agent quarterback. With former Packer OC Nathaniel Hackett just being hired as the new Broncos head coach, that might have just opened up the door for an Aaron Rodgers trade to Mile High. I can't imagine Denver will go into the season running back Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock as the quarterback. So I would expect a big free agent quarterback, or at least a rookie like Kenny Pickett, to come in and be the day 1 starter. I think Courtland Sutton is super talented. Even coming off the torn ACL, I still believe in his talents. I did a video about him 2 years ago for Fantasy Football. If you want to check that out, it'll be in the description below or the link above. But I still think Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are great weapons and could really be great for Fantasy Football if given the right quarterback. If this happens with Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, or maybe even Kenny Pickett, just a breath of fresh air, not one of these recycled old free agent quarterbacks that aren't very good. I can see Sutton or Jeudy, who were very disappointed in 2021, really outperform their late round draft pick value in 2022. And finally, here's the last player on my 2022 undervalued list. It's Kenny Golladay. In this one, I'll make quick, short and sweet to the point. Kenny Golladay is too talented of a player to finish the year with just 521 yards and no touchdowns in 14 games. Let's think about this. Kenny Golladay has actually led the NFL in touchdowns in a season back in 2019 with 11. I know you're shocked that 11 was the NFL lead, but it's true. Daniel Jones looks to be back for one more year, or at least the starter until the rookie or backup, Gardner Minshew, Ryan Fitzpatrick hopefully, takes over as Jones gets benched. It's almost certain that Sterling Shepard will be gone with all the injuries and how much he's due and how much they can actually save, the Giants can save against the cap this year. That will open up so many targets for Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay. Not to mention, if Russell Wilson lands in New York, I would spend whatever draft pick I would have to spend to get him on my roster. I would do anything I could. We've seen what Russell Wilson does with receivers all throughout his career, whether it was Golden Tate, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. You know, imagine the big play bomb receiver that can win a ton of jump balls for Russell Wilson. Oh yeah, that's Kenny Golladay. So if Russell Wilson lands there, I'm doing whatever it takes to get Kenny Golladay on my roster for 2022. All right, and that was my 2022 undervalued fantasy football players list. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. I'll have plenty of more content coming over the winter and heading into the summer as we head into fantasy football season. Once again, I thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time.